So, first video is not going to be the workshop build. The first video is now going to be me building a crosscut sled. It might be terrible, but we're going to give it a go. Okay, I'm pausing on the workshop build. This outfeed table, the workshop table, I need it before I can build things, but I can't build the dados in the legs to make this thing sturdy with the mitre gauge that I've got at the moment. It's terrible, I'll show you why. I'm having a problem with this mitre gauge. This thing here, let me show you what's going on. When you're using a table saw, you either use the fence, that thing down there, and clip it on to do long cuts, they're called rip cuts. But if you're cutting something like one of these, and you're doing what's called a crosscut across the grain, then obviously you don't just want to push it over on your own freehand. So you use what's called a mitre gauge to hold it up against, and it slides along these little grooves. The problem is, and you'd think if you spend £500 on a saw, you would assume that the parts that come with it are good, but every single saw, even expensive saws, seem to have terrible mitre gauges. Here's what I mean. You can see it's just sort of wobbling in the rail. And that might not look like a big deal, but trust me, it does, because if you're pushing something through and it's cutting, and then towards the end of the cut it wobbles inwards, well then suddenly all of the stuff you've already cut is pressing against the blade. You can get burn marks on your wood, cuts aren't as clean, they're not as accurate. The saw that I built my table on in America had this problem. It meant I had to do so much extra work cleaning up messy cuts. So what most people say is to either buy a really expensive one of these or to build a crosscut sled. And are you even a real YouTuber if you don't have a crosscut sled? No, you're not. So that's what I'm going to build. This piece of plywood is supposed to be straight, and it is so warped. Look at that. The whole idea of using plywood is that it's straight. I'm going to build my crosscut sled on here. I'm going to need to straighten it out. So I'm thinking about using a vertical piece of plywood along each side and glue and screw it in, and hopefully that'll mean that it'll straighten itself out. Great. That super glue worked too quick. This is not going to be the best crosscut sled that's ever been made, but it'll do. So I bought these mitre bars. I could make them out of wood, but time is money. We've got these little adjustable thingies to mean that they don't have as much wiggle. They're sliding really nicely on the second half, but they're a little tight, this part here. So, got to grab some sandpaper and sand down a tiny bit of this so that it's totally parallel all the way across. Similar story over here. Feels a little crazy to sand your table saw, but hey, if you see other people on YouTube do it, it must be right. Look at that. Perfect. Drop a couple of washers in to raise it above the height of the table. Boop. Well, that feels sketchy. I'm going to try and clamp this down on the table, I think. Because it's, when I'm raising up the blade, it's just raising up the whole sled. And it's probably not going to kick the whole thing back at me, but don't be too careful. Let's give that a go. Still feels sketchy. I've taken the clamps off, I've had a look. It still feels sketchy, but I've done it twice, I've checked twice, and it looks like it's making a neat cut. So I'm just going to keep on cranking the handle up and hope that I don't lose any fingers. What the heck was that? See that spark? I've come to the conclusion that I'm an enormous idiot. I was trying to raise that up with the riving knife still in. Like, let me show you just how dumb that is. I didn't even want to know what that spark was. There's a riving knife fitted. This thing obviously doesn't cut. The blade spins. This thing exists to keep the wood from pinching in on itself, getting squeezed between the fence and the blade and kicking back. So it's a great safety tool, but if you try and do a raised cut with a riving knife on, then duh, it's not going to work. I mean, what do you know? That was a lot easier with no riving knife on. Okay, I'm going to take the clamps off and then run this blade through, all the way through, and and then it'll be usable as a sled. And I still have all 10 fingers, look, proof. I'm gonna do my first test cut on this thing. This is one of the legs for the bench. Let's give it a try, see how we go. Look at that, great success. Joinery ready cuts, dados and all sorts. Nice.